I have two female swimmers in my senior group. Both are very tall for their age. One's 5'10 and the other is 5'8. Both of them can sprint. Put them in a short freestyle race and they're right there, leading the pack every time. They're competitive, they're fast looking in the water, but their stroke counts, they're sitting around 20 to even 25 strokes per lap. For their height and their speed, that number is just wrong. Something is leaking in their speed, in their stroke. They both also come to me regularly, complaining about shoulder pain. The top of the shoulder, the side of the shoulder, the pull sets, those are pretty much non existent for them. And the thing about shoulder pain in swimming is that it usually has nothing to do with the shoulder itself. It's usually a positioning problem. And that positioning problem is what I diagnosed these two swimmers with. Neither of them were getting their shoulder under their chin on the entry in freestyle. Their arms were coming out wide, their strokes were being short. For their heights, they were swimming at somebody who was only 5 foot. They weren't rotating enough, not getting their reach. They're just landing wide and pulling from a compensating angle. At their height and their wingspan, that position is costing them probably about 3 to 4 inches of reach per stroke. If multiply that across 100 strokes in a race, and you're talking about real distance, real seconds, disappearing for no fitness reason at all. That's what this video is going to be all about. We're going to look at why the shoulder placement at an entry is the foundation to a good catch. What goes wrong and why, the mobility changes that will actually help make this work, and 2 drills that will make you feel different in the water. If you recognize this in your own strokes, you're in the right place. The freestyle catch is a chain, and like a chain, it's only as strong as the first link. The first link is where the shoulder is when the hand enters the water. Think of this like a canoe paddle. You plant the paddle out front, and then you lift the boat past it. The paddle itself hasn't moved, the boat does. That's where propulsion actually comes from. But if your shoulder is wide when your hand enters, the paddle is off to the side. It's not planted in front of the boat, it's planted beside it. And when you try to pull from there, the hand sweeps inward instead of driving back. Inward motion creates a bit of a rotation in the body, but it doesn't move you forward. Just sort of swings you left to right. The second thing that it breaks is the elbow. Getting a high elbow, essentially getting that forearm into a vertical position, requires the shoulder to be close to the head on entry. That geometry is what allows the elbow to elevate. Wide shoulder entries make that physically impossible. The joint angle doesn't allow it. So the swimmer ends up pulling with the arm, not with the lat. The tricep fires too early in the stroke, and the stroke gets short. You may feel like you're putting a lot of effort in, but you're going nowhere. The shoulder loads in a direction it wasn't designed for, and that triggers the pain. That triggers fatigue. That's a 20 to 25 stroke lap. None of this is a fitness problem for you. It's a position problem, and positions can be fixed. Now, before I get into this a little bit further, I want to point you to something I just recently built that I think will be actually useful to you, maybe even more so than this video itself. I created a free swim type assessment. It takes about 60 seconds to go through, and it identifies what kind of swimmer you are. where your gaps are in your training, and what's driving your specific patterns showing up that are affecting your performance. Now, swim parents, I've created a side for you as well. How are you coming to meets? How are you dealing with your swimmer after races? Find out. You might be surprised by what you see. This is the actual starting point in getting better, to understand yourself as a swimmer or a swim parent. The reason I built this is simple. I kept seeing the same thing over and over again in my coaching conversations. People trying to fix the wrong problems because they hadn't identified the right ones yet. The assessment cuts through all that. It gives you clarity on where you are so that the work you do next is pointed in the right direction. It's completely free. I've added the link below in the description. Take it before your next session and you'll have a better sense of what you actually need to work on. So let's get back into the shoulder. Here's why this error is so persistent. It's because it doesn't feel wrong. When the hand enters wide, the stroke doesn't fall apart like other errors in our strokes. Your body will compensate for it. The body might add a little bit of extra rotation on that particular side if it's just one-sided. Or if it's both sides, then the lower body might take over. You'll hear swimmers start to refer to themselves as lower body swimmers. That's compensation. A lot of times, coaches don't even flag this as an issue unless they're looking for it specifically. Again, the swimmer doesn't feel like anything's actually wrong with their stroke. They just feel like the stroke is harder than it should be, like they're working more than the effort warrants. Like it should feel stronger in their catch and in their stroke, but they don't. They don't have a feel of how to hold water. Now, for taller swimmers, that can compound significantly. Basically, because they have longer levers, means that the margin for error is even smaller. An inch of misalignment at the shoulder travels a long way by the time it reaches the hand. The wider the wingspan, the more precisely it has to be controlled. The other reason it gets missed is that swimmers fix the symptom rather than the cause. They hear high elbow and they try to force the elbow out into a wider entry. That's not a correction. That's a fight against your own joint mechanics. The elbow can't reliably get up from that position. What you end up with is this inconsistent catch in the shoulder that starts to complain. So before we do any drills at all in the water, let's address that range of motion that actually makes the correction even possible. So getting the shoulder under the chin on entry requires two things working together: the shoulder mobility and also neck mobility. If either of these are restricted, the correct position isn't available, no matter how well you understand the mechanics. There are two mobility exercises I use with my swimmers. The first I've designated the Phelps stretch. Now, we all have seen Michael Phelps get up on the block and he does his famous swinging of his arms, right? But take a moment. There's this movement he makes right before he does that. As he's standing on the blocks, he leans over and pulls his arms back up. He's stretching them towards the ceiling, towards the sky. And what this does is it opens the chest and lengthens the muscles that pull the shoulder blades forward and in. A motion we do regularly when we're swimming freestyle. We're always moving the shoulders inward. This helps pull them back. Because if those muscles are tight, they restrict how far back and how close to the head the shoulder can travel during the freestyle entry. The stretch directly addresses the tissues that fight this position that you need. Do this before every swim. Do it before bed if you can. You're not forcing range. Don't try to push yourself as far back as Michael does. Be progressive when you're doing this. Do it consistently over a few weeks and you will feel a difference where the arm can go on that entry. The second stretch is probably one that you actually do already. Get into a full streamlined position, arms locked overhead, biceps pressing against the ears or even better behind the head entirely. Then without breaking that streamline, lean to one side. The right ear working towards the right wall, and hold your breath for a second. Really try to stretch out, lean yourself as much as you possibly can. Then release, come back to center, and then lean the other way. This helps stretch the entire lateral chain, the shoulders, the lats, and the obliques all at once. This creates the exact position the body needs for that entry at the extension. It also reveals quickly which side is a little tighter. The side that won't lean as far, maybe the side that you're entering a little bit wider. And if both sides are tight, that would explain a lot. Throughout these exercises, it also helps to loosen the neck. And neck mobility matters here more than people realize. If the neck is stiff, the shoulder can't get close to the head without the head moving to accommodate it. This is actually what happened to me when I was a younger swimmer. I was chronically getting diagnosed with shoulder problems. Every swim I had was a fight and a battle. I went to physical therapy for my shoulder time and time and time again, and it never seemed to get better. I changed my mechanics in the water and everything. Finally, somebody looked at my neck versus my shoulder. And my neck was so stiff throughout the traps that I couldn't get my shoulder next to my chin. That's where my pain was stemming from. My head was drifting and twisting and breaking my body position. The breath would then get rushed. And so I was working too hard in the shoulder and neck region, causing that pain. Once I started doing these exercises and controlling the tightness in my own neck, paying attention to it, everything became easier. So to do this, think about doing slow rolls, side tilts, but nothing ever forced. Make sure you breathe when your face is in the water as well. These aren't warm up routines, they're corrective work. Treat them that way. Be consistent, deliberate, and over weeks, months, you'll notice the change available to you in the water. Now that we've got that mobility work in motion, let's bring it into the water. When you're doing freestyle, one of the ways to work on this is what I call the catch, pause, pull drill. What you're going to do is you're going to swim freestyle, just single arm freestyle. One arm down on your thigh, the other arm will take the strokes. After the hand enters, you're going to pause at that catch, at that longest extended point. Take a breath away from the arm, rolling the body with it, keeping the arm extended and at the surface as long as you possibly can. Now bring the head back in after you've taken that breath and finish the pull. Go through the recovery, back to the pause. Repeat with the breath, repeat with the stroke. Do 25s of each so you get the feel of where that position actually is, where you need to hold that arm and body position in line. See, the pause in this is the whole drill. It forces the arm to actually arrive at that full extension moment before anything else starts in your stroke. It breaks the habit of entering too close to the body and then immediately pulling, which is what most swimmers do with that wide entry. They're rushing past this position because they've never really learned how to hold it. Now, if you're one of those swimmers, you're going to find this pause to be uncomfortable at first. It'll feel too slow. It'll feel like you're losing momentum. That discomfort is accurate. You're breaking a deeply grooved pattern. Let it be slow. Add more time to your intervals so you can do this correctly. But what you're going to feel is that mobility work doing its job. You'll feel the shoulders sitting closer to your head than it used to be. That's the correct position. That's what you're trying to train here. The catch that comes out of this position will feel different too. If the shoulder arrives correctly, the elbow will have somewhere to go. The forearm can load properly, the lat can engage, and the pull comes from something deeper than just the arm. Like I said, do 25s of each arm to really get a sense of how this should feel. Now, the second drill is the one that really teaches this position. To set it up, I always suggest you use a snorkel. And if you need to, throw in a pair of fins. You're basically going to kick on your side, one arm extended fully in front, the hand in line with your head, and the shoulder close by. Your head rests basically on that extended arm, cheek to bicep. The other arm is resting along your side at your hip. You're just going to kick. Breathe through the snorkel, nice and relaxed, keeping that neck soft. Hold that position. What you're going to feel is the shoulder. You're going to feel exactly where it is relevant to your head when the arm is in that correct position. The cheek to bicep is not incidental. That's the feedback mechanism. If you don't feel that, you're in the wrong position. You're either moving the hand down past the catch, slipping, or you're too wide out to the left or the right. So if that shoulder is drifting, that is breaking the connection. You'll know immediately whether you're in the right spot or not. You'll feel a heaviness on your shoulder. This drill helps remove the movement so that athletes can actually feel the right position to be in. There's no stroke to execute here, no timing to manage, no breathing side to compensate on. Just the body in the water, the arm extended, the shoulder where it's supposed to be. For my two swimmers that I talked about at the beginning, this is where the understanding really has started to shift for them. It wasn't a verbal cue that landed, it was this drill. Holding that position for a full 25 and feeling the shoulder actually close to their heads. And so, as you can see, there's just basically one cue that could help and create a whole different freestyle for you. Shoulder to cheek. As the hand enters the water, the shoulder comes close to the face, not touching, but very close. That proximity is the signal that the arm is in line, that the shoulder is under the head, and the catch is available to you. That's the whole thing here. Shoulder to cheek, entry, then catch. Because here's the honest truth, this is going to disappear under load. Not in a drill set, not when you're going at easy pace in warm up, or even during cool down. But in that second half of a hard main set, at race pace, or even in the middle of a race itself. When the stroke is getting desperate, when you're trying to get to that wall as quick as you possibly can, the arm is going to swing out wide. It almost always does. The body looks for the easiest path and the shortest range to get there. That's not failure on your part, and so please understand that. That's just the nervous system defaulting to an old pattern. The way you change that is by doing the work enough times in a controlled intensity that the new pattern has its own groove. That may take weeks, that may take months. The mobility work, the drills, and the cue, they're not separate things, they're a sequence. The flexibility creates the range, the drill makes the range feel normal, and the cue locks it in when it matters the most. Do them in that order every single day. Be patient with your timeline. That is something I can't emphasize enough. It is not a one practice fix. Watch as your stroke count starts to drop. The catch should feel different. The shoulder pain will ease as the joints stop being loaded in the wrong direction. Now, my two swimmers are still working on all this. We're a few weeks into the mobility work, and I was starting to already see their stroke counts falling down. The shoulder complaints are getting less and less. The catch on their good sides is more noticeably strong when we do pull sets. That's how this works. Slow, then clearly. If you're catching something similar, if you're stuck at this high stroke rate per 25, or dealing with shoulder pain that makes just no sense on paper, maybe even a catch that's inconsistent or that you don't feel the water when you actually pull through. You hear your coach talking about water feel and you just feel your arms are in motion. It starts with the shoulder position on entry. If you can, record yourself, watch yourself in the pool. Look for where the arm lands on that catch. Look at where that shoulder is relevant to your head. That one thing is usually where the answer is. Now, if you want to go deeper on this or any stroke mechanics, start with the swim assessment. Figure out what kind of swimmer you are, where your gaps are, the things that you actually need to focus on. Then join us for free inside the Swim Accelerator community. We have over 200 members of swim parents and swimmers working through race anxieties, technical ability, and everything else in between. It's free to join, and I've included the link and the assessment link below in the description. So until next time, I'll see you between the laps.